Okay. All right. Before digging in, I wanted to review an excerpt by cognitive psychologist and all-around music man, Daniel Levitin. Whenever humans come together for any reason, music is there. It's become clear that music is about way more than just listening to music. It's about the culture, and it's about the history, the legends, the icons, the stories, the debauchery, and really chiefly how it helps us color our own narratives of ourselves. So, when we're listening to Chopin, we're feeling fancy and sophisticated. When we listen to the Sex Pistols, we're rebellious. And when we listen to Eye of the Tiger, we're better athletes than we actually are. And we've always used symbols to telegraph these kinds of messages about who we are and our identities through music. And in the vinyl era, back when records were really expensive and bulky, the mere act of buying a vinyl record was, putting across a message about how you fit into a specific subgroup. And in the era of streaming and headphones, we've found that headphones are really telegraphing that kind of symbol about yourself and your identity. And above all, Beats has done a fantastic job over the past 10 years telegraphing a message about its symbolism for the youth culture in music, hip-hop culture, EDM culture, and really overall as a lifestyle brand. And they've done such a wonderful job doing that in the last several years, we've seen people willing to shell out more money for headphones, willing to show how they value that worship in a kind of different way. And right now we're seeing that they're really only talking to this one specific musical culture. So that got us thinking about other rich music cultures that we've seen, and the 60s and 70s came to mind immediately. So why aren't we talking to them, and what might happen if we were talking to them? So here we have entering the 70s dudette turned 21st century boss. They're the people who used to use their musical interests as the type of social currency to really build their identity and find their sub-tribes. They worked hard, they were mature, intelligent, they made a lot of money, and now they're entering a period of freedom where they're able to reconnect with a kind of culture like that. And they really miss the broader ritual shared listening that they felt growing up in the 60s and 70s music culture. They miss the nostalgia of the record store and the parking lot jam sessions and those types of places. So enter in our strategy. We're really going on thinking of beats as a symbol and shared music culture as a substance. So we'd like to find a way to leverage the existing beats spokespeople, the youth generation, to understand how we can revive our roots and kind of cross that generation into the people aged 55 to 65. So I'll turn it over to creative.
Okay, so for our first concept, we were thinking about mixing a playlist in honor of the originals, because we've all heard a lot of songs that sound really good, but the riffs of a lot of songs actually stem from other songs, such as Mariah Carey's Fantasy song, comes from Tum Tum Club's Genius of Love, the loop of it, and I guess most of these are, another example is Bruno Mars, the Uptown Funk. It comes from Bounce the Ounce. So what we're trying to do is not necessarily reach directly to adults at this moment, is to make it more of a, gain more respect, to give the younger crowd who are currently using beats to respect where the music that they listen to actually comes from, so that it doesn't become like an old, it changes to beats being, oh, an old person's accessory or something like that.
The second idea, time capsule, is the idea is to attract the older audience, the 55 to 65 years old or older, to buy beats. So we want to do this, first of all, with an earphone design, but by Beats, of course, that it's inspired by older bands of the generation that they're a fan of. And this would be a product launch at a drive-through theater vintage movie event. So pretty much, for example, on the headphones or the earphones, it would be like the cue for the Queen band, or one of the symbols for Led Zeppelin, or the AC/DC logo. and they would be launched at an event, sort of like a drive-through kind of retro.
I'm taking comes in 3, and we wanted to make sure that we didn't alienate the current user base because they've done so much to invite these people. We don't want to alienate the ones that we already have by going after another market. So we wanted to show the young accepting the old, and we'll get into that more later, and document the influence of like the past and the present. We've talked about like how like songs have crossed over from one artist to another and the references that they've made. And then also artists sharing the mic. So how can we, another concept, how can we show that? So here is Sinatra and the lead singer from Led Zeppelin. And in interviews, he's like mentioned that he was a guy that he looked up to a lot. So like these people from like generations, like from like maybe when they were very young to like when they're in like their music prime, a little bit older, and like they're sharing the mic and they're like, these people were allies back in the day and like music allies. And so it ladders up into Beats being your music ally. And Vale understands the interconnections with this slide a little bit better and also the names.
So following up with what Daniel said, so we want to show that artists now have been influenced or inspired by older artists that they look up to. So for example, Ariana Grande, a big influence on her music has been Destiny's Child, especially Beyonce. And then for Nicki Minaj, her dress style has been inspired by Cyndi Lauper and how she used to dress and when she was giving shows. Lady Gaga's stage name, which is Lady Gaga, came from the song from Queen, Radio Gaga. So she also mentions in several interviews that Freddie Mercury was a big inspiration and influence still in her music. So just an idea for like a print ad would be, for example, Ariana Grande sharing the Beats headphones or the Beats earphones with Beyonce, for example. So this would be like an idea of how it would look.
The name for our next concept has 2 options, Welcome to Hell or Stairway to Heaven. It would be a hologram concert of a lot of influential celebrities that are no longer with us. And it would include Freddie Mercury, as we mentioned before, you name it, Casselia, Jimmy Page, and also from other types of genre, not just rock, but like Donna Summers, and yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so I think you had some really good. I would the 55 to 65. I just would love you guys to set up, especially if it's a departure from their brief, which was 45 plus. Why are you honing in on 55? You know, why not 45? There was a little bit you got to go through again. You got to go through and do your research. Like some references were definitely not 55 to 65. They were much older. Like St. Frank Sinatra is much older. If you're talking about celebrating kind of the 55 to 60, the boomers as the originals, don't go older. Maybe connect. I felt like you were trying to have this concept of generations, bridge it with today. I mean, Lady Gaga did a whole tour, I think, with Tony Bennett. It was really successful. I don't know, but anyway, or the idea with Ariana Grande and Beyonce, is that big enough of a stretch? Beyonce's 45, you know, like the Gen X, like just fine tune that stuff if you're going to go that way. What I would love to see though, if you go back to your insight, the strategy. Let's revive our roots, like it's a rally cry by, okay, keep going back. Where's your insight?
I started with the insight, talking about how music culture is more than just music, it's about the history, the stories.
This?
No. I didn't put it in the slide. I talked about it when I opened.
You need to have a way to articulate that. This is just pragmatic for your book, for when you, for your portfolio, what you're gonna be held to, your ability to do is just articulate an insight. So work on writing it out. And tell me again what you would have said your insight is.
Music is about more than just the music. It's about the music culture, the history, the icons, the legends, the stories.
Put it in the terms of how the audience feels. It's more of an observation of what music means to a broad swath of people, But for this, for this generation, music means more. It feels more of an observation than an insight. It's not true, but I don't know where it's leading you to reviving our roots. It's like there's something about some sort of pride that's coming through in your work that I feel is the most powerful part. And I think that you started talking about it in how you talked about the target before, and also in how you talk about why some of this stuff works. There's the celebration of the original with the fact that the pride of being the original, giving them credit, maybe, that idea, I think could strengthen let's revive our roots. Still doesn't get me a benefit. It's more like beats will help, what's the benefit? What's the role it's going to serve in people's lives?
Yeah, so
yeah.
Beats would be like the headphone the only headphone arguably that is serving as like an identity headphone, like as a piece of fashion that telegraphs a message about your musical interest, and it's only speaking to a youth culture right now and a genre culture, and it could be speaking to a culture or a generation that has a very, very like forgotten emotional connection to their music culture.
Right, and then so that's kind of an insight there.
Okay, so
what I'm saying?
Did that not come across in the way the argument was laid out?
Well, it was hard because I didn't see you write it out, so I didn't have.
So you would prefer to see it like written in as a sentence in a slide, as opposed to like told narratively.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
okay.
that's part of your skill. I mean, yeah. Or you could have a spoken word. You can have a video. I mean, you could have other ways of doing it. You could have a slide. You could have a visual. You could have a person standing there with a thought bubble. I mean, there's other ways to do it besides a line and a slide. But yeah, I want to see you articulate it, because that should inspire your strategy. Let's revive our roots is sort of a rallying cry versus what the role beats fills.
So if I took let's out and just said revive your roots, would that be
Revive your roots
phrased
with
in a way that
beats?
sounds like a strategy?
That sounds more like a strategy. Revive your roots with beats. Yes.
Oh, okay. So just
Yes, it might just be a wordsmithing thing, but is that
Cool.
getting at the benefit that you feel is sort of the unmet need or the thing that you're reframing beats for that
like
generation?
a revival of the like neglected emotional connection to that music culture that Beats is the only headphone really on the market right now that is like fulfilling that niche. Does that
Okay.
make sense?
Yes.
I think, first of all, again, great presentation overall. You guys did a great job presenting everything. Starting with the strategy, it was very well put together. It was, grabbing the attention, doing, funny parts when it's like, like the name of the guy, they do that thing, like that bring a smile. You know what I mean? That little jokes at the end are the things that make your presentation. Make the audience feel like, oh, I'm enticed to hear more. So what I was going to defer from your feedback until the end, because I do agree that, and again, this class, the beauty of it is that we have a planner and we have a creative, that we are both giving you feedback, that it doesn't mean that we always have to be aligned and supporting each other in that sense. You know what I mean? In the real agency world, sometimes we can have a disagreement and then we can just agree on, okay, we agree to disagree, but maybe it's this, maybe it's that, and then we find a common space, and that's how you bring up campaigns that are great. You know what I mean? By challenging the strategy, and sometimes the planner has to put up with creatives that, just want to poke at your strategy and your meeting. You know what I mean? So I think that in a sense, you really capture that attention. Me as a creative, I was like, okay, you really did a good job with all your slides, presenting your data in a way that was nice in the storytelling, that was enticing enough. So when they came, it's more of, oh, this is bringing to life all of this. You know what I mean? Maybe, yeah, it's missing in terms of like, it's just fine tuning. Again, I don't want you to feel like, what we mean by that is that we agree is that maybe it's just a matter of wording it differently. That's it. You know what I mean? And maybe leave that in a single slide. You know what I mean? That thing is like, okay, beats are the symbol, one slide. Shared music, culture is the substance. Finish off with another slide with that beats, revive, whatever. You know what I mean? However you want to put it in words. then give a little RTVs, so then the creative comes and it takes over. What you did is the audience was like, oh yeah, maybe I agree, maybe I can agree, but at the end you're wrapping it up like, okay, I'm gonna do that checklist at the end with all the creative. When you guys do that wrap up as planners, like, okay, this is the wrap up, you know what I mean? This is my boom. 2, 3, 4 slides, and then the creative. Those 3, 4 slides are as important as all the presentation for a planner, because that's how it's the segue to the creative work that brings to life your strategy. If you don't do that right, you're not gonna score that